Oh, yeah. Presenter view.
We are live. Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me? I will take it as yes. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm Judy Piper. I'm one of the engineering leads at Labs and also the host for this Celo Tech Talks series. I'm hoping you're here today after you already watched and attended the live sessions of 2 previous Tech Talks on building your first DApps on Celo by Barbara, who joined us today again. And so we will do a very quick intro this time and before we get started. As you know, Celo Tech Talks is one of many Celo Foundation's efforts to share and spread Celo technology knowledge with the growing Celo community. So we did many sessions on the Celo platform, Celo application, and we delved into different components. And so today we are going to finish the building your first DApps and setting up and walking through how you can set up your environment and what are the other tools that you will need. And Barbara will go into the detail about that. So I will hand it over to you, but Barbara, if you can start with introducing yourself and perhaps we could do recap on the first 2 sessions before we go into the last part.
Yeah, totally can do that.
Awesome.
I am coming back for the 3rd time on Celo Tech Talks, so thanks, Judy, for the opportunity. And just quick recap of what I do at Labs. I lead the developer experience engineering team. And what developer experience or DevX is focused on is we're focused on building the tools and resources for the community that enables you, the developer community, to build applications on the Celo blockchain. So the tools, if you've used like ContractKit or CLI, DappKit, those are just some of the things that we have, as well as we support, we'll be supporting a bunch of other like community events that are coming up, and like hackathons and integrations, and we do documentation, so all that fun stuff. And yeah, quick personal thing, this is my dog Ulrich in the photo, and I also have another dog, Dietrich, but he is still a puppy, so that's why I don't have a photo of him. So if we do this again, I will make sure that the photo includes both my dogs. So yep. Okay, so a quick view of our agenda today. We're going to touch on the recap of the first 2 sessions. So in part 1, we discussed a lot of like Web 2 versus Web 3 and the different tools that are available. In the second session, we focused primarily on smart contracts. And after we kind of discuss those terms, just a quick overview, we're going to go over the mobile development tools a little bit more in detail, and then just like overview of all the tools, because there are a lot. But I'm hoping that between the different sessions that we have, and we've talked a little bit about each of the tools, it's not going to seem so intimidating to see the list of things that you need in order to build a mobile DApp. And then we're going to kind of put it all together by talking about an example DApp that we're going to look at. Okay, so quick recap. In part 1, we did an overview of DApp architecture, and I did a comparison of Web 2 versus Web 3 and how they're actually quite similar to each other. The difference is really like in the platform and the tools that are used to interact. And this is something that, again, I really want to emphasize, because if you aren't currently a Web 3 developer, that doesn't mean that you won't be able to, right? Like a lot of the skills that you have currently are transferable. And that's something that I think is very encouraging and empowering, is that it's really not that difficult to switch. And so yeah, remember that the platform changes, but the actions remain the same. There's a unique functionality of the application that you build, and then there's reading and viewing of state. There's a payment processor that facilitates value transfer, and then there's like a state change to update that value change. And again, all we're really doing differently is instead of using a centralized database and centralized payment processors, we're going to be using decentralized tools like smart contracts, a blockchain, and a crypto wallet. Oh, I have a hard time finding the next slide button. Okay. So in part 2, we really discussed what we need to understand that's really different in Web3. And that was primarily like smart contracts and the blockchain. We didn't discuss the blockchain too much because in order to like build a mobile application, a mobile DApp, then we don't really need to know how the Celo blockchain works internally. It is good to know, but you don't necessarily need to know the like internal workings. If you are curious though, we do have some previous tech talks that discuss that. So really encourage you to look at those. The C-Labbers who explained that did a really great job. As well as discussing like smart contracts in more detail. So the other thing that we discussed in the previous session is this like term of escrow and how it came to like influence of the creation of smart contracts and its role in decentralized finance. So essentially just really all this means is an escrow is a process that exists to provide participants with an assurance that everyone has what they say they have. And then when certain conditions are met, the assets are going to be transferred according to those conditions. And typically that does require a third party. But using blockchains and smart contracts, we no longer need to have that third party to facilitate the transactions. The smart contracts are the decentralized, verifiable way of transacting without needing that third party in the middle. Okay, so just like think about all those terms, escrow, smart contracts, blockchain, all that stuff. All it really just means is like, all this is set up so that we can transfer value trustlessly. And just recapping that smart contracts can receive, hold, and release funds and function as an escrow. It's just a series of if this, then that conditions. And the other thing to remember is that a smart contract is deployed to the blockchain. And the unique thing about a blockchain is that once something is there, it's there forever. You can't like go back and change something. This is like writing with permanent marker. If you want to go back and change something, you need to redeploy your smart contracts. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're writing your smart contracts, is that you want to make sure that in general, it's best to keep it simple. You don't want to have overly complex smart contracts because complexity introduces more chances to make errors. And you want to make sure that your smart contracts are understandable, they're simple, and then if you have to, you redeploy them if you need to make any changes. And then this is kind of new. We didn't really talk about this a lot, but we're going to talk a little bit more about it today, which is the crypto wallet. And so if you see here in the like architecture, it falls under like payment processor. So in developing your decentralized applications, you need a way to process the crypto payments, right? You need a way to process cryptocurrencies. You need a way to like receive transactions and sign and send transactions. So this is where like crypto wallets come in. So I'm gonna like kind of take it back when if you're not familiar with this concept, to think of it in terms of if you're developing like a regular e-commerce application, you're going to interact with something like PayPal or Stripe. And there are times when you're shopping and it's like you see the online vendor says we only accept Visa or MasterCard, for example. They're like, we don't accept American Express. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that means that I, as a consumer, need to have Visa or a MasterCard in order to process. And if if you happen to have a credit card or debit card that they don't accept, then you can't use it. And so that's kind of like the same concept here is if you're developing an application, you need to say what your users can use to make payments. And depending on the payment processor solution that you use, you may be only accept certain kinds of currency or certain kinds of certain kinds of like credit cards, right? If we're talking about traditional payments. And so this is kind of the same thing, is that there's certain wallets that only process certain kinds of cryptocurrency. And that's just because there's like different compatibilities between them and everything. So that's kind of like the concept of why do we need another wallet? Why can't we just use something else? And it's because they process things differently, and maybe the vendor like hasn't accepted it. So when you're developing an application, you need to decide, you need to like use a wallet that accepts the crypto that you want in your application. So if you're developing on the Celo blockchain, Labs has created a wallet for you to use as a developer. So this is just a Celo wallet. And we need to use this wallet in order to sign and send transactions to the blockchain. And it's a way to be like, yes, I authorize this and I sign it with my private key. So the Celo wallet, just as a note, there are two wallets available that Labs has. There's the Celo developer wallet, and this is used by you. It's not used by the general public. If they do use it, it's fine, but they're not using real funds, right? So this is a way while you're developing your application that you can test that, yes, I can sign and send transactions as I want, as I intend, but you don't need to worry about using real money to make sure that it works. And so it allows you to test your application before deploying it live. It connects and interacts with the Alphahorus testnet. And it is named differently from the main wallet, which is Valora. And it's, there's a couple different reasons, but primarily for your intent and purposes, it will hopefully prevent confusion with Valora and to really signal that you should only send testnet funds to this. If you send real funds to this wallet, you may or may not get it back. There's questions about that. But in general, right, like developing, you're going to use the Celo wallet. And cool. So now that we kind of like talked about that, we're trying to talk a lot about mobile development because Celo is a mobile first blockchain. So the tools we developed are focused on developing on mobile. You can make a web-based application that we just may not have some of the tools available for you at the moment. But we do have a lot of community members who are working on more web-based application tools and everything. So there's some really cool ones that you can check out. I know that several community members are on Discord if you're curious about talking to anyone. But with mobile DApps, the difference between like a mobile app and a mobile decentralized app is not very different in terms of like your user interface. For the most part, you're going to write your application as you normally would. You would still write, the same buttons, same kind of like UI rendering and everything, same kind of state logic, transition logic. The difference is going to be in the APIs that you use. Instead of connecting to Stripe or PayPal, you're going to connect to the Celo wallet instead of connecting to whatever external API to get data or calling your centralized database that holds your application state. You're going to call your smart contract to get that information and like use an API built to interact with the blockchain data to get information about your balances and transactions. So we're going to talk a little bit about ContractKit. So ContractKit is a library It is part of Celo's SDK for developing applications. And it's meant to help interact with the Celo blockchain as well as integrate and interact with Celo smart contracts. If you are currently an Ethereum developer or have been dabbling in it at all, ContractKit will feel very familiar. It's essentially, it wraps the Web3 object and allows you to interact with the node's JSON RPC API. And so a lot of the commands are going to feel very familiar with that. There are some things that the kit wraps because there are some primitives in the transaction in Celo that aren't in Web3. So when doing transaction stuff, you should use the ContractKit implementation, but otherwise you can use just the regular Web3 object. ContractKit also gives you access to a couple, there's utilities as well. You can connect to the on-chain identifier for the phone numbers, and allows you to send and sign transactions and interact with contracts. And then there's DappKit. So this is specifically for mobile development. It's a set of lightweight functions that allow mobile dApps to work with the Celo Wallet to sign transactions and access the user's account. So internally, it uses ContractKit and the utils package to handle this workflow. If you're curious, you can look at the code and see how it's implemented. But for the most part, the flow is going to be the same no matter what kind of application you're using. And so that's why we've made DappKit so that you don't need to worry about implementing the same flow over and over again. And it's a little bit of different user experience for this. And it is allows so it allows signing through wallet deep linking. And that's kind of the transition from if you were to go in a regular shopping site and you decide to pay with PayPal. If you remember, you'd say, I want to pay with PayPal, the application will take you away from the shop that you're in, take you to the PayPal website where you complete the payment, and then it will send you back. So this is that same experience, is that you're in your mobile DApp, you're going to go to Celo Wallet to complete your payment, and then you're going to go back. So that is the workflow that you're thinking about. With DappKit, it is built in TypeScript. And there's a couple example apps that are written in Expo so that anyone can just kind of jump in. So Expo is a framework for React Native, and React Native is a way for web developers to write mobile applications without having to write, a mobile application in Swift or C++. You can write your mobile DApp in JavaScript using a familiar library like React. And so it's very similar to a more traditional web development experience. And there's, so we'll talk a little bit more about Expo later on, but that's just kind of how DappKit will work. Okay, so I know that's a lot of tools, and we didn't really talk a lot about some of the other tools that we talked about previously. So I just wanted to kind of put this out here. I've tried to organize them in what might traditionally be server side and then client side. So the server side, kind of think of as smart contracts of blockchain. And these are kind of the tools that you should be familiar with when you're developing. There's Solidity, which is a language, and that's the language that you write your smart contracts in. There's Truffle, which is a framework. It's a Solidity framework for building, testing, and deploying smart contracts. So conceptually, you can kind of think of this as Express, right? Express is a framework that over Node. Then there's Ganache, which is our test blockchain. And so this is a development blockchain. So if you're going to run your own local blockchain, if you want to do local testing, kind of if you're using localhost, right? Ganache is the tool that you would use. So Celo does have a fork of this. And so that's the one that you should use because there have been some changes to make it compatible with the Celo blockchain. Then there is the Celo CLI. This is just a tool that's used to interact with Celo accounts using the command line interface. There's Alpha Horus, which is a test net. And this is just, it's a net to test your transactions. It uses pretend money, right? Well, that's not quotes, pretend money. It uses pretend money so that you can make transactions and you don't have to worry about using real money to make sure that things work. Another thing that's good to know about is Forno. So Ganache is a local blockchain that you run locally, and Forno is a hosted blockchain. Now, this is something that CLabs runs, and it's something that you can connect to make sure it's more, what's it called? Simulates like what you would do if you're connecting to the main chain. And it's also nice if you don't want to, maybe you don't want to like run your own test chain. So this is a good way to do it. So Forno has, you would connect depending on the URL that you give it. You could connect to mainnet or Alpha Horus with Forno. So then on the client side, there's a couple tools that you would probably use and be familiar with. So we talked a lot about this today. So there's ContractKit. So this is a code as a library. You would install it using like npm. It's a way to programmatically interact with Celo contracts. It like wraps the Web3 object and allows you to interact with and get information. There's DappKit, which is code. Yeah, same thing. It's like a little library, and it allows you to interact with Celo Wallet. There's Block Scout. This is just like if you're familiar with going to like Etherscan or something, it lets you like look at the blockchain on a website, view transactions. You can like search by hash, look at different blocks. It's a way of viewing information. It's a little bit easier to see things in visually, right? Versus like a CLI, for example. Then there's Expo, which is a framework, so React Native framework for developing mobile applications. There's the Celo Wallet, which is a developer wallet, lets you sign and send transactions. And then there's Alpha Horus Faucet. We didn't really talk about this, but maybe some of you had a question of, okay, so I have a wallet. How do I get money into it? How do I like have funds to send anyone anything? So with this, we provide like a faucet. And what you do is you would find your address, you would input it into this, into just basic input form, and you would say like, submit and send me funds. And all this is just like an account that has funds in it, and it would just send it to you, just like small amounts so that you could use it for testing. If you didn't have a faucet, you would need to find somebody to like send you testnet funds. Okay, so if we put all these together, then we can build a mobile Dapp. And so you may have seen this in the previous sessions, and but let's like talk about this using the workflow and like the tools that we just discussed. So with this, with all those tools, we can build a mobile Dapp. And with this, so you see all this like information, this state is pulled from the blockchain. This is how we know how much Nam has, how much Asa has, Isabel, all these members. This is how much we know, like how much money they have. And this is also how we know like how they're members of his saving circle, because this is the state that's been saved. The interaction of what goes onto the blockchain is handled by the smart contract, which this saving circle, so a saving circle smart contract, which is deployed to the blockchain. The smart contract, when you interact with it, it creates circles, it adds peoples to circles, and based on a set of conditions that is in the smart contract, decides how and when the funds are available and if they can be sent to a certain person. So each of these like buttons interacts with the smart contract. It creates a transaction to send to the blockchain. So, and the way that these do this, and this is all built with the Expo framework. This is how you can see what's going, what's going on here. So internally, it uses ContractKit and DappKit to interact with the smart contract and get information from the blockchain. And then using DappKit, the application can initiate a call to this to generate a transaction. And then in order to approve this transaction, DappKit will use deep links to transition to Celo Wallet for approval. So that's what's kind of going on here when this decides to withdraw. So now you're going to Celo Wallet, you approve the transaction, and then you get sent back to your application once that transaction is approved. And so that's like the whole thing, right? It is a lot, but when you look at I hopefully that makes a little bit more sense how things are working and how each of those tools work together to create a mobile DApp. Okay, so I just want to also like touch on the resources that are available to create all of this. There's a great like starter kit that Josh has on his GitHub is Celo-DappKit. And that is a great like way to see to get started on to seeing how things are working together, what the code looks like, how ContractKit is in there, and just like a very basic Dapp. If you want to see examples of like what the community has built, there's a Dapp gallery. There's also, if you have something that you want to build and you like want to, and you're a startup or a company and you're building applications on Celo blockchain, you can participate in Celo Camp. And then there's also the Foundation Grants Program, which is an important program that supports projects that are committed to Celo's mission of building a financial system that creates the conditions for prosperity for all. So those are a couple of ways that you can be part of the Celo community, get started if you're not sure what to build, and how you want to like go about building your applications. Yeah, so you can also find more tutorials, walkthroughs, and like a lot more information about technical details of Celo at celo.org/developers, as well as our documentation, docs.celo.org. You can chat with us at Celo Devs, as well as join our Discord. I forgot to put the Discord link up. And but you can find that link here. And then if you want to view the source code or contribute to the Celo project, you can do so on our GitHub, which is at celo-org. So again, I just want to emphasize that Celo is like a mobile-first blockchain. Yes, you can build web applications with it, but the focus is on mobile first because this is something, a lot more people have mobile phones than they do laptops. And it's a really cool thing that we are able to focus on building applications and bringing financial inclusivity to a lot of different people around the world. So that is, so that's actually great. That's a lot more time than I thought we would have. So now I kind of want to go over starting a new project by scratch. We're probably not going to get to the end, but I think it would be a good exercise for us to kind of like see how everything's put together. So in the meantime, though, does anyone have any questions about anything that we discussed or any comments?
And many things that Barbara covered in the beginning of the session, she had an in-depth talk in the first part of the building a DApps on Celo. So I would highly recommend that if you missed the first two parts, please watch that on the Crowdcast or the YouTube channel.
Yeah, thanks, Judy. I'm just going to really quick set up this guy. Normally, I have everything set up, but I didn't actually think that I would get through it that fast. So that's great. Okay. Need to figure out.
In the meantime, I can reshare the Notion link on the first part, how to set up the environment. I see new faces, so they might not have the link. So I will share that on this one. Yep.
Oh, there it is. I made something full screen and then it wouldn't go back to not full screen. Okay. So maybe I could get like a quick, like if people want to post in the chat, how many people have set up the Celo wallet? Okay, I'm gonna shake the silence as maybe nobody. So that's cool. So let's I just trying to decide what would be most beneficial for the people that are here if we'd like to go through setting up the wallet, or if we just kind of want to go into setting up a project.
Yeah, I just create a poll asking how many people create a Celo wallet. Maybe the question could have been do you have a Celo wallet already created?
Okay, yeah.
Yes
yeah,
or no.
do you already have a Celo wallet? If not, that's cool. I can make executive decision. No problem.
More folks no?
No?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So why don't we go ahead and let's do that. Is that way, when you look at the sample DApps and everything, at least you'll have the Celo wallet ready to go. So I'm going to assume that you have the developer environment set up, things like NPM, Node, all that stuff, which actually doesn't really matter for this, that's okay. So let me pull this up.
And if you're not shy about asking question, I can bring you onto the screen. So just please raise your hand. We have a rather intimate the audience here today, so feel free to chime in.
Why is this not showing the one I want? Okay, here we go. All right. So here's the link for the wallet. And again, so just a quick note, just remember that Alpha Horus is the name of Celo's testnet. So if you see the phrases test wallet, developer wallet, Alpha Horus wallet, they're all referring to the same thing. They're all referring to like the Celo developer wallet or Celo wallet. When you see the word Valora, that's when it refers to the actual like in use, real money, real funds wallet. So they're very different names, so hopefully that doesn't confuse you. The addresses and everything look the same, and the experience of the Celo developer wallet is very, very similar to Valora, but it is different. So don't send real funds here. Want to like make sure like you need to be very careful when you send funds around that you are only sending like testnet funds. You're not sending like actual Celo or CUSD. So if you have not developed the wallet, just go ahead and choose like, are you using Android or are you using iOS? I don't have an Android, so I apologize. I'm not very familiar with how the Android works, the Android like setup works. But it should be pretty easy. I think you just click on this, you click become a tester, and then you follow the instructions. For iOS, because I do have one, I am familiar with this one. What you need to do is you need to first download TestFlight. So you're actually going to do this like on your phone. So on your phone, it might actually be easier to go to this URL on your phone as well. But if you don't have TestFlight, you're just going to go to the App Store, search for TestFlight, and download TestFlight. Once you have TestFlight, go back to this page and on your phone and click on the iOS tab, because that will open up this it will open up this page on your phone, but the page will look a little bit different because this invite code will open up, and it will open up in TestFlight and allow you to accept like the invitation, and it will allow you to download the application inside the TestFlight. And then once you have that, I don't know, I should have like planned this better, but the Celo Wallet, when you redeem the invite code, the Celo Wallet will pop up on your phone, and it's just called Celo. And so it looks like, I don't know if you can see that, but it looks like that. You can also see my dogs. So that's the Celo Wallet. And when you open up the wallet, you're going to follow the instructions to set up your account. So when you open it, it's going to look like that, and there's like a nice banner that says like, this is not real. It just allows you to like do stuff. It's alpha horus. From there, once you have the wallet installed and you've like gone through the process, you're going to fund your account using the alpha horus faucet. So you're going to get your account information, which is in the menu sidebar, and then you're going to copy that. You're going to copy that, and then you're going to input it into the faucet. And the faucet, let me send you over. This. Oh, great. Thank you. Yes. So hopefully the experience should be almost identical with downloading everything. And so this is how you get to the faucet. So you're going to take your testnet address, and then you're going to paste it into, whoops. Sorry. Do it in this one so you can see. So you're going to take your address, paste it here, and then you're going to say, I'm not a robot, and then you're going to get started. And then that's going to fund your testnet wallet. And the way that you can check that is using the Celo CLI. So let me go ahead and pull that up here, which I did earlier. And the way that you do that, so make sure you have Celo CLI installed. You usually just like type a command, and if it's installed, stuff comes up. If it doesn't, then like this is not a thing. It'll just say like command is not found if you don't have Celo CLI installed. Make this bigger. So with Celo CLI, you want to make sure that your node is pointed to alpha horus testnet. So by default, the node is going to point to mainnet. And the way that you check is you use like the config and get, so this command. And so here I've already changed this, but you can see like my node is set to alpha horus forno. If yours says HTTPS forno, then that means you're on mainnet. So you'll need to set it to the alpha horus testnet. So let's grab this. I'll paste it there for you guys. And you're going to say Celo CLI config set. You're going to say, I want to alter the node property, and I want to like give it this value. And you hit enter. And then if you check it again with config set, you can see, oh, whoops, sorry. Oh, my bad. I mean get. You can see that like your node should now say that it's pointing to alpha horus. If you didn't have this set and then you tried to like look at the account balance of your account, it's just going to show 0 because it's looking for an address on mainnet when your address exists on testnet, on the alpha horus testnet. So let me actually, I think I have my address. Where'd that address go? It's buried here. Nope. Okay. So let me grab my address. So the way that you look at account balances, you should say Celo CLI account. So I want to access all the stuff in account. And if you aren't sure of like a command, you can always like just hit enter and it will show you all the different things that you can do. So it's like, and it tells you, it gives you a definition. So it's like, okay, I want to look at my balance. I want to view Celo dollar and gold balances for an address. So I can use account balance. So I use Celo CLI account balance, and then I give it, whoops, I didn't realize I copied that. Celo CLI account balance, and then you're going to paste in your account address. And then it's going to show you how much you have. And it looks like a lot. I'm really not a cajillionaire. It's just, it's in units of 18 decimal places. So just to kind of show you that the faucet is working, if we, go back to here, the faucet, and let's paste in my address. Bicycles. Are they all gone? Sometimes I'm not very good at this. Okay. Let's say get started. Hopefully it sent me some monies. Let's see. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. I think my internet is a little bit like crashy. But so now let's go ahead and like run that again. Let's see if my balance is increased. Oh, sweet. So it sent me some more Celo because I used to have 5 of those. And then now I have like 10. And I used to only have 10 CUSD and now I have 20. So that's how you can kind of like check and see. Also, if you have the wallet installed, I got 2 notifications. I don't know if you can see these. Yeah, so I got 2 notifications pop up saying that I received 2 different transactions. So that's like another way that you can check and see. So hopefully that was like a overview of like, now you have the Celo developer wallet. And now when you are developing using the Expo framework, when you run it, a QR code pops up and you can like scan it. And then you can like, your Dapp will run on your phone. And then when you interact with Celo Wallet, it will like change over to Celo Wallet and then change back, just like how we saw in the example saving circle Dapp. Let me make sure I have all of those. Okay, cool. Does anyone have any questions about that so far? Okay, cool. So we have some time left, so let's go ahead and let's like set up our project scaffold, I would say. Just to like recap, we are building in JavaScript. So overall, we do need like, essentially we need like an NPM project. So we need like a package.json. If we were developing like a regular Web 2, we'd probably do something like installing Express to handle server-side stuff. Or like using Nuxt.js or Next.js. And that's going to generate, like a bunch of scaffolding for us. In our case, because we are going to be using doing mobile development, we're going to use Expo to generate the same kind of similar scaffolding that you would get using Nuxt or Next or Gatsby or something that you might be more familiar with. And all that's really going to do is just generate a bunch of folders and files, install things that you're going to need, and just set up the base starting point. You can, of course, do that all yourself, but if you're not familiar, with developing, this is a really great starting point. You can kind of also think of it as like a create React app. Just like, here's all the basic stuff. Don't worry about it. You can just start developing. And then we're also going to need to, like, because we're doing smart contracts, we need to have truffle stuff so that we can develop our smart contracts. So let's go ahead and where'd my code go? Okay. Let's start a new one. Oops. Here we go. So we'll start from scratch. Oops. Let's do this. And then bring this guy over here. Oops. All right. Okay. So let's make a new application here. In order to do that, you're just going to make an empty new directory. We can call it my Celo Dapp. Let's cd into this, and it's empty, right? By habit, I always ls, just to make sure that it's all good. So what we want to do is, like, we can just go ahead and set this up as an npm project. If you've never used npm before, it's all this is going to do is like generate a package.json. It's going to guide you through a series of questions where it's like, hey, I'm going to help you set things up. It will give you like default answers, which you can just like enter through, or you can add your own. Maybe this is version 0.0.1. My first step. You can leave these empty if you want, or you can just enter through all of them and just leave them blank. So this is what it's going to create. You say, okay. And so now, oh, that's annoying. There we go. So now when you see this, you can see that there's a package.json that's been generated. So the next thing that you want to do inside of here is let's create a truffle project. Let's get the scaffolding set up so that we can develop our smart contract. And what's nice about that is very similar. You should say truffle, and you're gonna say init. So this is assuming that you've like had truffle installed, like you've done the kind of like stuff in the previous sessions. Cool, so it does all this stuff. So now if we ls, we see that we have a bunch more stuff. So truffle has set up everything that it thinks that we need to get started writing our smart contracts. So now that we have that set up, we want to set up our scaffolding for the client-side stuff, for the mobile application. To do this, we want to use Expo CLI. I don't think that I can't remember if I put this in the previous ones, so we'll go ahead and install it. We do want it globally, so we're just going to do npm install-g for global expo-cli. And this is going to take a little bit, I believe. If you haven't installed it, it is quite a big package. So if you have like slower internet, this might be something that you want to do offline to make sure that you have time to follow along. We're not going to go too far in depth, so if you aren't able to install this as we're going, that's not a big deal. So let's go ahead and look at this. Let's see, what did I call it? My Celo Dapp. So you can kind of see here, here's the stuff that Truffle made: contracts, migrations, test, and then Truffle config, and then npm made us package.json. So with Expo, we're going to create a new application. So typically, you would like name this project what you want, but for the sake of kind of like understanding what this code is, we're just going to call this project client, because it's going to create a folder full of all the stuff that we need for a client side. And we kind of want to keep that separate from like contracts and migrations and all this stuff. And it's also going to create its own package.json. So we're going to go ahead and initialize a new project with expo init. So that's kind of nice. They're all like npm init, truffle init, expo init. And it's going to ask you what you want to name your project, or you can just go ahead and type it in right here. And so I'm going to call it client. And that is going to do give you a couple options for what starting point you want. Do you just want this very blank? Do you want it blank with TypeScript? Do you want to have like example tabs with TypeScript? Or you want like minimal bare workflow? So I think it might be best to like work with, if you've never done this before, you can do one of these ones. Just for fun, I guess. Now we'll do this one, just be faster download. But if you're doing this, feel free to choose any of the other ones. And this is going to download like a bunch of packages to get you started. For example, it's going to download React Native packages, Expo packages. If you had chosen TypeScript, it's going to do TypeScript. It's going to have Babel, some Jest stuff. If you didn't do that, you'd have to like manually do all that yourself, which is kind of a pain, but it could be a good exercise as well. So that's going to take a little bit. While that's loading, I kind of want to talk about like what Expo is doing as well. It's also initializing itself as a Git repository. And this is normally a good thing because this is typically going to be like a standalone project. But since we're nesting it inside of another Git repository, we want to delete that Git repository. Otherwise, when we push to GitHub or GitLab or whatever you're using, it's going to say that you have a submodule inside of it, and it's not going to push all of that. If you do want to keep this as a submodule, that's totally fine. You can like go ahead and do that. But if not, I recommend deleting the Git directory so that it's no longer a repository. And I would do it now before you forget. So you can see here that we have this client. If the Git directory is hidden, so if you ls-la, you can see that it's right here, .git. And if we just remove that, then it will remove it as a Git repository. And then in our root level, we can initialize our project, as a Git repository. And so that way we only have like one Git repository. We don't have like weird nested submodules. So that's just something to like keep in mind. But if you want submodules, that's totally fine. Cool. So once, yeah, so it's made our client. So if we see here, you can see like, yep, it's all this extra stuff. And then we can start it by going into the client and starting it with expo start -s web. And I know we're coming up on time, so, but really quick, just so you can see, say, okay, you do want it to allow to do this. It's going to pop this up. And now with, you need to download Expo client on your phone. And once you have that, you can just open up your camera, you can scan this QR code, and then it will show up on your phone. And now you can get started developing and know that you have like a mobile test environment. So I want to leave a couple minutes for questions if anyone has any, but hopefully this will get you started that at least now, when you make changes, you can see it and you're not like wondering if any, if like, oh, I made like a change, like, is it working? Is it going to work on my mobile phone? And I'm going to finish consolidating all of this into a README essentially that you can follow along. I have a text base, and so Judy is going to send out the email that's going to contain that link, as well as we'll post a blog post to follow up. And if you have any questions or anything wasn't clear, please let me know. I am available as Barbara Liao, pretty much everywhere, on GitHub, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, so you can get in touch with me that way.
Thank you, Barbara. We don't have other topics in this month other than we're going to continue on the building DApps on Celo. And one of the sessions that Barbara also graciously accepted, she's going to cover how you can migrate existing your Ethereum application on Celo. So that's the session is coming up. In February, we have a contract release and a CIP8 overview, as well as a demo on the CIP8. And so stay tuned for the invites for that. Other than that, I think we'll get back to the Q&A sessions for this. And please send us feedback. Your feedback is important to us. And if you have topics that you're thinking about, you want to learn more about, please send me, Judy at celabs.co, and I'll be available to also answer your questions. Okay. We don't have other questions. I did also posted a couple of polls.
Oh, I see those now.
Yeah. So we only have 2 people who watched this previous Celo Tech Talks. And if are there any other topics that you would like to learn more about on Celo, like building Celo or Celo's core components, building blocks, please post your answers on the messaging board. That would be great. We just got the 100% on the build, moving and using apps.
Yeah, so that'll be a fun one. I'll try to put something together where we can move that over, and as well as I don't know, Jade, if you want to start a poll, if people are interested in like a longer form. Because some of these I'd love to do more like live coding and everything, but I do feel like I try to strike a balance between explaining the concepts so that you can understand them before we get started coding. But also I think it's nice to do more like workshop live coding sessions. So if people are interested in doing longer ones, or possibly if you even want to do like a different time to accommodate that, I'm happy to do that as well. And also I just want to again emphasize that if you do have questions, or you're want to join the community, please join our Discord and join us in the developers applications section, and we're happy to answer your questions. As well as if you'd like to contribute, we'd love to have you participate and help us do everything code-wise, and so you can do that on our GitHub.
And we are hiring, and Barbara is looking for excellent DevX engineer. So if you're interested, as you saw, like Barbara is a wonderful person to work with. So please do reach out to us. Yes, we're hiring. Work with some fantastic people. Josh is great. He's the developer relations. I believe I saw him on here. So he's a great resource. We're looking for people who, passionate about like developer experience, education, and who believe in the Celo mission. So please reach out to us. You can reach out to me directly, or you can just go ahead and visit our jobs page on the Celo org website. And all of our positions are available across all locations, and then it can be also remote. So I lead the engineering team in the Berlin and EU time zone. So if you're located in Berlin EU time zone, also please do reach out. We have many open positions available. Yeah. And if you ever come to Utah, you can come ski with me. So that's right. Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining. And Barbara, thanks again. We'll see you next week again for the another session. Maybe not. Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, maybe not next week, but soon. Thanks everyone. Bye.